second video about scales, where I am going to do my best to encourage those who have a certain, shall we say, fear or perhaps ambivalence towards scales. In the last talk, I mentioned a lot about motive, and we're going to revisit motive, because motive is the incentive. It is where we get the fuel, where we get the fire to perhaps push through ambivalence, fear, reluctance. Why do we have to do this? All of those and the above, and probably many more that you would add to that list. And by the way, it's really good for you to just pour it out, all your feelings about scales. I feel that partly scales start off in a really negative place, and that is, I have to learn my scales to do my exams. And therefore there is, and I'm going to start again retracing the steps of many of the topics that I mentioned in other videos, and one of them is motive. We have to take ownership of a motive for it to be really important to us. For some second-hand reason, like I have to do them for scales, really doesn't cut it, I think, for most of us in those times where we just feel I would rather be doing something else. But if we find an incentive, and that is the motive for doing scales, then I feel we've got a better chance, and you will have a better incentive in those times where you think, well, I'd rather do that. However, I know that by doing scales, I will have, and this is what the I will have is what today is all about. But also, I'm going to take you through the initial steps about how to perhaps reconfigure scales. So last video, I talked a lot about retrieval. So memories is memorizing scales is often, I think, a slightly confusing, and I would say contentiously, that I think this isn't quite what it's about. I think it's about retrieval of knowledge. So what we want to have is the confidence to retrieve that knowledge. So what is that knowledge? That knowledge is what is the key signature. And therefore we are, rather than thinking about fluency in I must play it fast, we're thinking about fluency in retrieving the knowledge that will turn into the instruction for us to then play the actual scale. That's really what's important. So facility comes slightly later, because facility is connected to us facilitating the knowledge that we have retrieved. It's a kind of little step by step. So we start with knowledge, and then we have the retrieval of that knowledge, and then we're facilitating that knowledge into the actual playing. So in a sense, fluency comes from having a quick brain. Now, quick does not mean to say that initially we might need to sort of think about it quite a lot. And that's really important. So let's get down to playing. So we have set ourselves a scale. I'm going to start off with C major. Now, some who might be watching this will go, yeah, well, I know what C major has. But what I'm going to be, and some others might go, well, I think I know what it is. I'm choosing C major in a very purposeful way, and purpose is another word that I'm going to bring a lot into the series of these videos. So I'm choosing C major because we are going to use that as the basis by which this step-by-step learning, these layers of learning, we are going to retrieve the knowledge. We're going to then facilitate the knowledge into instruction, and that instruction will be, the next stage into actually playing the scale in a very purposeful way. So, number one, C major. Whether it's C major or whether it's some much more complex scale, we're always going to ask, what does it have? Does it have any sharps or flats? Always there is the question. So we don't differentiate between what we would say as the hard scale or the not so hard scale or the easy scale, let's say. They are all going to be treated in the same way. What is in the scale? Does it have sharps or does it have flats? No sharps, no flats. Fine. Next stage. What are there any fingerings? And I'm thinking particularly on the clarinet or on the saxophone. Are there any particular fingerings we need to think about? Well, this is where I will put my own considerations, which I use for my own students, and that is to work in specific fingerings. So fingerings never change. So we're not doing it by patterns, and I mentioned that in the last. We are thinking about notes, but we are thinking about the lefts and the rights. So we're going to finger it. C, D, E, F, G, A, left hand B and right hand C together. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now, it's really easy at this point to go, well, I know what it's got. But going backwards is different to going forwards. So you are going to then go purposefully back down. This is all, I would say, oiling the cogs, the cognitive of getting the brain to engage with the knowledge, to give the instruction for the actual playing, for facilitating the knowledge. So, and this is part of the proficiency that we want to use and get used to using, which will become much, much more fluent as we go on. But these are laying down the foundation, building the layers. So we're going to go back down. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, B. We're going to add the B to the C. A, G, F, E, D, C. And we're going to finger, you can finger it first and go that, yay. So we've done 3 stages. We've got the information, we've got the knowledge, we've retrieved the knowledge, yes. We've gone there, and you know, this is important to give ourselves acknowledgement. We've retrieved the information. We've then turned the information into the knowledge, into the information that is going to be the instruction to facilitate the playing. They're all little stages. And then we've applied the instruction. Rather than playing it straight away, we've fingered it first. Now, that might be a stage that as you become quicker in the brain, so the brain is retrieving the information and is able to instruct the fingers, you can do that while you're playing. But at the beginning, this might be a really, really useful stage for some of the scales that you're adding to that are new. So this will really help to give yourself time. Now, when you are playing, that you might have to stop to take time perhaps to retrieve a particular instruction is fine, because fluency at this point is not about playing it continuously. Fluency at this point is about retrieving the information, retrieving the knowledge to turn it into instruction. And sometimes we have to stop and think. So this is the beginning stages of not only making friends with scales, but giving yourself a plan, a systematic process to organize the information, the knowledge, to prioritize the process by which you're going to implement the knowledge into the instruction, into the playing, and then to commit to this process, which will facilitate a gentle building of the layers of scales to slowly build from C major to one sharp, to one flat, and moving forward. So this is the next stage in reminding yourself that there is a long-term goal, of course, the confidence that it will give you and give you as a player and give you as a musician. But each of these layers are gently built up, and this is the joy and the excitement and the curiosity of having fulfillment, not just in the end goal, but in the process of learning.